Great. Welcome back to cross-cultural communications. We are at our second last big week of meetings. I will be ending the main presentations soon. The classes finish with most all purposes and tenses in December 3rd, because we already gave makeup classes for any classes we met. But because there was a request, some students are interested in having additional meetings going up to December 7th. I will be available if people want to meet up until December 7th. Please make sure that's clear. Jules, could you repeat what I was just saying related to the class times?
Yeah, the class will be ending really soon, like next week. So you will stop presenting yourself, and you will ask us to finish our presentations on the next week.
Yes. However, I will give extra session. I will continue to be here. If anybody wants to meet, I will still be around if you want to continue joining the Zoom sessions. Great, thanks. As far as the marks go, you guys can see my screen now, right? Everybody has access to this. You know your student number. You know the general grades you guys have. You can get points for, of course, presenting your final project. You must make sure that you go through and post your details in the class Facebook group, as we said here. And make sure you have some way to evaluate everyone, not just evaluate with a grade, that's a small part of it, but you must help other people see what are other possible ways to communicate, what are other values of interpretation. So give some comments to other people about changes that could be made with the presentations. Comments are important. So if we look at this, if you download this file, you can see here, this is the file. You can fill out the details, especially the grade and the hot pink areas. Obviously, the student that's presenting, you must have that. The title of the presentation, make sure that's clear. The group number, that helps. And yourself, your name. Although there are several groups, I believe there are 6 different groups, you should have details for each specific person. Many groups, if they have several people, they should make sure one person could be just in black and white. The other person has to highlight their information in the color, like present in yellow, and another person can highlight their information in blue or green or another color. Make sure you color code your contributions so there are no confusions or arguments going forward. Again, this form was proposed in the very first day. This form was proposed in the week 1 presentation when we were talking about the student requirements. So it is here. You guys were requested on slide 9 to suggest ways you could evaluate presentations. I haven't heard from too many of you. So this is one way you can suggest ways to evaluate yourselves. Make sure you get approval from the teaching team in advance. Obviously, check for content and knowledge. So, Kyungdonjung, can you guess what are we looking for with content and knowledge?
Can I guess what the contents or the knowledge should be look like?
What are you looking for? What are you looking here? Everything all together. You're looking at this, many things. What do you think this means? What are you going to check for?
Well, it is written right next column that whether it fulfills all the requirements or the informations that must be inside the final PPT or the Word file. And the other students can give a comment and they can grade us by the evaluation form.
Yes, of course, this one also, sure you're not generalizing. People so far have been generalizing. It may be easy for some people to understand some of your words, but they may miss your main intention, which should be focused on sharing your research. You have research, you know something, you're a specialist, you're trying to communicate to other people. So make sure it's very clear what you are teaching the world. What is that message? That is usually in an abstract. Good, next. It should be focused, for example, helping a dream employer or helping somebody that's going, if you're just trying to do cross-cultural communications for a world tour and you want better happiness, more success in your tour, you may be wanting to focus on impressing your tour host or your local host. So identify who is that target person, what it is you're trying to teach, and then keep going through it. Maybe show, here is a research article that is the best. Read this, it's amazing. It's basically saying this, and then you can summarize those points and introduce the research article or the benchmarking practice. That's generally the best for contents knowledge, and up to 5 points for that. Research support materials. Obviously, you can use anything as a reference. You can reference your neighbor's dog, what that dog does. You can talk about the color of somebody's clothes or their house or their car. But identify the idea of what is highly respected and reliable information. And don't just say Scopus, because most of the world doesn't know what Scopus is. Try to talk about how this is one of the world's best, most reliable research articles, and they're saying this. If you just say the research says this, and this, somebody might think it's from the news. Somebody might think it's from Facebook. Somebody might think it's just from Google or Wikipedia. They might not realize the value. So identify your research and support material. Try to show it's not just your idea. It's not just a brain fart. It has been well researched. So a range of supporting material used to enhance your information, convincingly supporting and established credibility. Of course, English, abstract, introduction, literature review, the methods, the results, conclusion, and references. Make sure that this is not just shown, but explained properly. This is generally the best way to be seen as a reliable expert. Class requirements, big picture, how are you changing the world? And then, of course, reference property. So everything down here is an alternative way. This is what we were showing throughout slides when you are going to do research identification. For example, you could have 5 points for an abstract, 3 points intro, 3 points background literature review, 3 points methods, results, conclusion, etc. These type of things is just an alternative. Pick one and evaluate in detail. However, can I ask a few people, what does this mean? For example, Imingyu, can you help the class identify what exactly is an abstract? Imingyu. What is an abstract? What should be included in an abstract?
Can I answer instead? It's Minjung.
Thank you for helping your classmate.
I think the abstract is like a summarization of the whole paper and suggesting a direction of the paper, what we are going to say and what will be the conclusion is.
Great!
Yes.
Not what it's exactly supposed to do, but it's close. Could you say that a little bit clearer? Maybe could you refine it a little bit, because you're so close to perfection. For example, an abstract does not say we're going to talk about this later. We will have a background literature. We will have a results section. We will talk about the results later. That's not allowed, but it is supposed to be an executive summary of the findings. So what does that mean? Anybody in class? Going once, twice? Could I get Kung Jung, can you read this to the class or help explain what an abstract is, please?
So I'll just read it for you.
Thanks.
So it says, show a summary of exactly what you found and how you found it in a way that clearly teaches the world something new. Consider stating this paper found 3 main findings using qualitative, participant, observer, case study, and interviewing research methodology. 1, 2, 3.
And then especially, this is what we found. This is the second thing we found. This is the third thing we found. Your abstract must teach those 3 facts. And then you also say how you're reliable. And that is in your methods section. But yes, great. Any questions about any of this? What about a, yeah, sir, do you have any questions about any of this evaluation details? Because this week we are focused on the idea of written communications and cross-cultural communications in writing. So this whole week, it's talking about what we are saying right now. And we have a PPT that goes through and it talks about lots of written communication patterns and research. But if you understand what we're talking about here, this is best. This is the best way for anyone in the social sciences to communicate with cross-cultural communications, except this is just saying your message. Your rule number 1, you need to say one main point, make sure it's translated well, but the translation is many, many, many times misunderstood. The intention is lost. So you need to also check the other people, know your intention, and offer ways to change the wording so that it's understood in other culture with other values. Any questions about this? Yes, sir. Any questions from you?
Yes, sir. No, I don't have any questions. I understand.
Okay, great. So we're getting back to this whole idea. And I have heard from some students, a few students, again, when we go into groups, so we're going to do some group work today. You're welcome to use this bit.ly link is what will, it's in the class outline. This is the link for today's PPT, bit.ly CCC W9 writing pattern. So let's just check. Again, we've already started to talk about some of these basics. So we're going to go through some details of cross-cultural communications in written form quickly. I want you guys to misunderstand things. I want you guys to pretend to be confused. Why? Because many people will misunderstand in other cultures. So you stopping us and asking questions helps other people understand the intention, not just the meaning. Some people can take my words because this has already been recorded. You have a video of this in YouTube. All of the class details are online. You can rewind them many times to make sure you check what are the words I said, but the meaning and the intention could be misunderstood. So ask many questions, even though we go through this quickly. The idea of international English. Many people think you have to understand English. You have to write perfect English. That's not true. You do not have to have proper English. You do not have to know English. As we said last class, what is the most important language in the world for cross-cultural communications? Anybody?
Or customer's language.
Right, your customer's language. Wherever you're going, If you're in a community that is not English, whatever language they speak and they know, that is the language you need to respect the most, try to communicate with the most. English is just a popular way to try to get there, but it's just one tool. You should make sure that person's language, that person's understanding is ultimately understanding what you're saying, no matter what language you have. Chinese may be very, very popular. English may be a popular tool, but the customer's language is most important. And whatever your customer's tone or their style, that must be respected also. So today we're going to talk quite a bit about simple things like writing a resume. When you write a resume, every student generally needs to write a resume. So they usually just write whatever they think and they send it to a company hoping that they're going to get a job. But the idea of a student trying to get a job in a company is the exact same idea as cross-cultural communication, because a student is from a student world, less responsibilities, maybe less stress as somebody paying for 10 kids and a car payment, a house payment in a company with a boss they don't like, whatever it is, those corporate experiences are at a different culture, a different value, different thinking style than several students' ideas. So you must not just communicate in what you think is good. You must research the other organization first. You must put together something not with the words you want. What do you need to do? When you are writing your resume, what words should you look for? Rosie.
Sorry, I don't quite understand what you mean by what words you should look for, but you should do research on the company you're applying to, and if it's in a different country, what kind of resumes they generally make, and what you should include, for example, like pictures and things like that.
Good. Exactly. So you're understanding the basic concept. So when you see a job ad, you read it, oh, I'm excited in this job. You want to apply. What words should you put in there? And if you don't put those words in there, there's a high chance your resume is not even going to get looked at. That's my question.
I think you have to put words that they're looking for.
Good. What are those called? Exactly. You need to.
Skills.
Those people want very specific words. If you don't use those, they might not even check you at all. Can you explain?
For example, you can write skills or any type of like common words that they're, or any type of like talent or skills that they're looking for. If you include that, maybe it will catch their attention.
Good, but how do you know what they're looking for?
You can do some research about the company, and you can look at their job posting, and usually they write down what they are looking for in like employees.
Right, exactly. So although we're talking about jobs and resumes, this whole aspect today, it's the same thing as going to a different culture. When you're trying to communicate with somebody from a different culture, if you want them to help you, if you want them to really interact with you, then yes, you need to understand what they are interested in, what's normal for them. And with a company or a resume or for a job search, the company will write the job search and they will have very special words that they use that are key that they want. So you need to copy several of those words from the job ad and put those in your resume. Use their words when you're communicating. If you're in a different culture, try to use their words when you're communicating. If you're in a different culture, listen a lot. Try to listen first. Try to research first to see what's normal and find those words and use those words to communicate back to them. Because what you think is good can be insulting, right? What am I doing right now that could be insulting? Any ideas? What could we do that we think is good that could be insulting in other cultures?
you're doing the body language that is offensive in other culture. For example, Brazil, I think I remember.
Yes, perfect, thank you. That whole idea of thumbs up, in several countries, it means good job, go for it. Wait, like I'm proud, I'm happy to see that. It's a good thing. But in other cultures, this is the same thing as a middle finger, you're right. And in some cultures, that whole idea of moving around a lot and moving your body a lot, that also it can be interpreted as you being foolish and not very intelligent. Some cultures think the more you move and the more you talk, the less intelligent you are. So you students, please communicate more.
Professor, how about like telling in advance before the like conversation starting, like saying, if I insert you in any way, I have no offense. Maybe it is originated from the cultural difference.
Absolutely, I love that. That's amazing. Yes, always start. You don't have to always, but it is a very good idea to listen to that teacher. That's perfect. Start by saying, thank you for meeting with me. I'm really happy to be here. I apologize. My culture is very different. I don't know your culture very well, but I have learned something. Please let me know if I say anything wrong or make you feel uncomfortable. My intention is good. Right, exactly what you just said. That's a perfect lesson for everybody. And then not just say that at the beginning, but every time you're trying to make a point, check you haven't insulted them. Check they understand what exactly you're saying. And it's not the words. Words are not important. Does anybody know how much of communication is actually in words versus something else? Have you guys heard that? So much of communication is not in words. What is that percentage? Any guess? Kevin, Johnny, what would you guess? What percent of communication is not using words? I can't hear you yet, Kevin. Johnny, can you maybe turn on your microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead. What do you think is the importance? How much of communication is focused on just the words you use? Take a guess, any guess.
Like a percentage you're asking?
Sure, yes, anything.
Yeah. I think it's like depends on words, like 80%.
So 80% is focused on words, or are you saying something else? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, good. What about Ali Akbar? What do you think is important with cross-cultural communication? Right now, maybe you're learning English, maybe you're learning the class, maybe you're learning the subject, but whatever we're doing, we're focused on words. So the question is the same as Kavanjani answered. What percent of communication is in the words?
I think the mindset, what I want to say and what the other person think about my action or something, some words.
Okay, great. I don't really understand what you're trying to say now. Can you say that again in maybe different words? Say that again so I can understand.
Just like something, yeah, take it easy, man, take it easy. Let's, I said to someone that take it easy, man. Maybe he said that don't try to be over smart, something like this. So
Oh, okay, sometimes your words can upset somebody. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Can somebody, what about Gwen? Thank you. Gwen, could you try to guess what % of total communication is done from just the words alone? Gwen, do you have any guess?
Professor, can I add a comment?
Anybody, you can all, hopefully everybody can talk today. Do not wait for me to call your name. It's best if you are proactive. Thank you. Go ahead, Yasser.
Okay, so I think, in my opinion, maybe 60% or 50 or 70% of communication is with the words, but also the other percent, maybe 40% or 30% would be your body language, the way you look to the person when you're talking, and the way you act when you're talking, for example, using some body language, or like smiling, or something like that, I think.
Okay, actually, there's quite a lot of research that shows it's the opposite. Some research show that more than 70% of international communication is from communication outside of just the words. So what could that be? What are we talking about? How can you communicate without a word? Yes, sir, just said body language. Is there anything else?
Maybe also, sorry, maybe also silence.
Silence, yes. Using silence is very popular. It's required in Japan to show respect, right? Versus in the United States, if you have too much silence, that could be insulting, right? So it's opposite depending on where you are, and it's a very big part of the intention, the meaning. Great, thank you. Next, anything else?
Professor, I have a question related to communication. For example, if the two sides talking through the phone and they don't see each other, like as Jesur said, there could be body language who which also take a part of the percentage of talking. And what about if they talk through the cell phone and they don't see each other? So then in this case, 100% goes to to the words when we communicate.
What about what we just said?
You mean the silent?
Exactly, you see that? I was making a speech, but then I used silence to turn it into a question. Using silence is a big part of communicating. Yes, and if you don't use silence, how do you usually make a question? Usually you change the tone. Some cultures, you increase the tone. Some cultures, you decrease the tone, and that can make a question, checking the other person understands. Or the speed of your communication, or your energy when you're communicating, that also has a big part of the communication. Even the time of day, or the number of times you make a phone call, that also shows your level of interest, your level. Do I want to have this contract? If I phone you and I phone you several times, what does that mean? It means that person really wants the contract, right? So words are important, but there's many other things that also impact it. You're right, it's a lot harder to have international communication if you're just using an email. If you don't have the tone, if you don't have silence. Some people say this. Let me show you the next. Oops. We've gone through this last class. This. You guys can see what I'm showing on the screen right now, right? Is this professional to use? What are these? This looks like a snowman and snow, Christmas tree, Santa Claus, thumbs up, your fingers crossed. It looks like a person either eating a heart or somebody that was punched in the eye with 2 hearts. This guy, I don't know, punched in the eye with many triangles. This guy looking up at the air. What are these? These are often used in emails. They're often used in text messages. Those are different than these. These are just words. Why are these growing in popularity? Especially with international communication. Any ideas? Jules, what do you think? First of all, what are these? And how are they different than just these words?
Let me guess. Are you asking me the age discrimination in France? About
Here, maybe. Can you see the can you see there's a few words here, and this is all black or a different area? Is that right?
Yes.
Now I want you to compare. First of all, tell me, first question, question number 1. What is this? What am I showing here? What are these?
These are emojis.
Okay, can you be a little bit more specific? What
Emotions or
emotion? Right, it's a picture, but it's a picture showing emotions, right? And keep going. Sorry for
we have like traditions. We have Santa Claus. We have a snowman, and a Christmas tree. Yeah, a Christmas tree. So yeah, I think it shows emotions and usual traditions. We have also the thumbs up and the fingers crossed.
Right. So the alternative is, as we heard, talking by phone is a lot harder than talking in person. But writing a text message just using these types of words is even harder. This, you don't know if they're getting excited. You don't know if they're speaking fast. You don't know if there's any emotion. So these are signs of emotion. That's why these have become so much more popular, and they're gaining value. They're being usage.
Professor, I don't know how can the snowman, Christmas tree, and Santa Claus offend to some cultural people?
Okay, great question. Anybody out there know why is it when I say Merry Christmas to you, why could that make somebody feel bad?
Maybe it's about the religious stuff, because in Muslim countries, they don't celebrate Christmas, and they don't even celebrate New Year sometimes. So maybe religious stuff can be a reason.
Right. It's only for Christians. This is supposed to be a party for the birth of Jesus Christ versus other cultures. Maybe if they only believe in Allah, or Jewish cultures or some other cultures, maybe they don't believe in this, and you're insulting their religion, you're insulting their belief by assuming everybody wants to do this, right? It could be really bad to some people. I love it. I want to celebrate Christmas all the time because it's a good thing in my mind, but I understand some places don't like it. Some people don't like it. Does that answer your question, Minjung?
Yes, yes.
Same thing with this. When I was starting, these give emotion. When I use them to my mom, when I use them to my family back home in Canada, it has a lot of emotion. It basically means party, good times. I'm feeling good. I hope you are feeling good. I wish we could get together. It's a family time in Canada, or some parts maybe throughout North America. But even in Korea, it's not really that important. It's not as important as it is to me in Canada. In Korea, what is more important than Christmas? What is the national religion? What is the national holiday in Korea?
Maybe Chuseok.
Yes, Chuseok, Seollal. Those are more important for people in Korea if we say everyone in Korea has the same religion or everyone in Korea has the same belief. If we say that, and it's not true because some people are different, but if we say that, it says that those Chuseok or Seollal are more important than this. Is there a sign that you can put in a text when you're talking to your friends or family in Korea that you can use for Chuseok or Seollal?
They sometimes use a present, like gift emojis, for example, like fruits or food.
Yes, or an envelope. Sometimes people use an envelope. Yes, that idea may represent Chuseok or Seollal more important than Santa Claus, for example. What about this whole idea? We have already talked about just having a thumbs up. Again, in Canada, in my area, this generally only has a good meaning, a good intention. It means I'm feeling good. I hope you are feeling good. Good luck to you. It's a good meaning, sharing good, happy thoughts to somebody else. But in some cultures, this is an insult. It's like giving somebody the middle finger. The same thing as this. In my culture in Canada, this means good luck. It means I wish you have very good situation, good chances, good opportunities, and you do very well in life. But again, in some cultures, this is an insult. What about this? Can you guys see these pictures? You want me to make it bigger? Can you guys see them okay?
Yes, we see them.
Professor, I have a question related to emojis. Is it okay to like put emojis if we send like formal email, for example, to a professor or to like business partner, like in the formal emails?
Awesome question. Very good question. So what could we say our classes taught us? In your mind, you want to communicate with somebody. So we're saying the student wants to communicate with a professor? Is that the formal email you're talking about? Or is it a job application? What is the formal communication you're talking about?
A professor, to professor or to some like business partner.
Good. So a student is writing to a business person applying for a job, or you're asking something very important to a professor. Is it okay to use this email? Or use this email? Is it okay to use these emojis? How do you answer that? What did we learn in class?
Like it depends on culture or the understanding of the person who received the email.
Yes, it depends more not on what you want. It depends most on who you're sending the email to. Okay, good. What are some more details? Give me some more details.
I think that like we can put the emoji of the Christmas tree, if we like as a general, like to give some how to say, like I mean like those emojis, like the third one, and then the first and fifth one, and I think that like with the heart one, like not the first. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that it's like kind of like not common to put it in, like if we will write to professor, but the Christmas tree, I think it's okay.
Okay, good. So I'm not saying my opinion yet. I'm just showing you are analyzing them and you've shown your thoughts. Let's break it down. The most important thing is to research the other person. So what do you think a professor wants? Or if you're applying for a job, and what does the executive in the company, what is their culture? What do they want to see? What does this mean to them? Anybody? What about Ungwan Dukwang? I'm not sure who this student is. Ungwan Dukwang?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is your comment? Is it okay to send this to a professor? That is one question. But to answer, how can I communicate with a professor? The first thing you should think of is, what is the value of the professor? Or if you're applying for a job, what is the value of that executive? What do they expect? Do they expect this?
I think if you send this emoji to them, they would think you're friendly, but it doesn't show you are professional or something.
So if you're communicating with a friend, this shows you're very close, you're very kind, you're sharing your love, I guess. I think that's what it means. But in other people's mind, it could mean that you are not professional. You're not a serious person. So do you want to show the professor you're not serious? Do you want to show the company executive that you're not professional and not serious? That is how you communicate. You don't just translate what it means. Saying the word and translating it misses the point. Rule number 2, after you check the meaning is understood, is the intention understood? And you must understand the other person's mind. Exactly. What else could this mean? If you send this to a company executive or a professor, what about if I flipped it? I'm not going to do it. Let's be clear. I should not send you these emojis. But if I do send somebody this emoji, what could you think it means? Tobias, I haven't heard from you today.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, again?
Wonderful. So first up, I would never send any emojis to anyone in business. And I work for some companies who actually forbid to send emojis at all, like in emails or communication internally. So that's in Germany, like in some companies, it's pretty prominent. And for the emojis you just pointed on, I think it was the kiss, like kiss on the cheek emoji, like I would say it, and the emoji with the 2 hearts and the eyes. Am I correct? So I mean they're very personal. So the first one, from the meaning here, I would interpret it like a thank you very, very much, like love you or whatever. So that's very personal. And the second one also means like I love that, or I love what you just sent me or something. Like I'm very grateful for that, or I'm very excited. But also very problematic in terms of serious conversation or business. Like I would never ever give a person credibility in a business sense if this person sends me these emojis.
So
Doesn't matter how much I know the person.
Thank you. You have said something. Why? What you just said. Don't you? Why?
Sorry, my connection is just very bad right now. I'm just trying to fix it. Give me please a second. Does that work? No, it doesn't. Okay. So can you please repeat your question? I haven't heard it.
You have said 5 years, but there's probably many people that don't understand why. You said they're forbidden, but doesn't say why. Because Germany doesn't like this technology? Probably not. Why in your message? What is your intention?
You mean why I sent these emojis, or why would I send these emojis?
You said several words.
Yes.
People still don't understand why. Explain why. Explain why these are not used in German. Why?
It's not about insulting anybody. It's about keeping conversation to a professional level and not involving emotions. Like emotions are on a professional level can be misleading, and emotions are very personal and also subjective. So you could send this emoji with intention. Still, the other person on the other end cannot see you, cannot interpret your feelings directly, or cannot interpret your emotions, and so you could actually be very misleading to the other person, or maybe the other person gets a total different vibe from these emojis and or interprets these emojis differently. That could also be happening. Or the third option, which is actually worse, especially for older people, they maybe don't know these emojis or don't know these the use of these emojis, and then they are confused. Or you could suggest to them that they are, like, let's call it less educated in a way, that they don't know these kind of communication items you just used as emojis. So it could go wrong in many senses. So normally you would exclude using emojis at all.
Okay, so that's clearer. There's almost no emotion, and when your communication is better. When you use tone, your communication is clear. But here, there's no indication of your emotion or tone. So this communication is not as clear as this, because this helps give the tone or the emotion. So some people, research has shown this gives more emotion and helps communication more than the words that have very little meaning. So Tobias's comments, they're correct, but they could be argued. What about Samaj? What do you think? Is it okay to use this applying for a job or talking to a professor?
No, I don't think so. Sorry, I'm a little sick at the moment, but no, I don't think it's okay, because like in the States, when you use emojis like that, you don't use them in a professional setting. You use them more so to like friends or family, because it's like more laid back and casual. Like it's very weird if you would send someone that you're like in a business setting, that you'd send them a hard eyes or like a kissy face emoji. They'll think you're like losing your mind or something.
Okay, I heard two things. The first thing, I heard you say you can give this with family and friends because it's personal, and for business, you don't use that personal level. That's one thing. So it explains it. When you're doing business, you don't get that personal, I think you said. The second thing is you said sending these shows you lose your mind. So does that mean every time you talk to your boyfriend, your girlfriend,
No. I said it like if you send it in a business setting, then it's like they'll look at you like you're crazy, because they're like, why? This is not professional at all. Why would you send me this?
Why does this mean something bad in a business situation in your mind? Because why am I asking this question? Because we understand these words, just using the alphabet, communicate some, but no tone and no emotion. So this communicates less than this. This communicates more tone. This communicates more emotion. So this actually is better at communicating than this, right? Is there anybody that wants to argue? So if this communicates more, has better meaning, why not use it? What could this mean? Where is the problem so far?
Can I say something?
Please.
I think I agree with Samash, and that would be wrong in a work environment because at least in my mind, emojis are used in informal situations. So you wouldn't use that with your coworker or your boss. That's why.
You're just saying a rule. You're saying in business, it's supposed to be formal, and somebody made the rule, this is formal, and somebody made the rule, this is not formal. But why?
Okay, can I add to it? Okay, so like you see how there's like the hard eyes and the kissy face emoji, right? Usually people send those to like friends, or like if they're trying to flirt with someone or something. You're not going to send that to your boss because you're not flirting with your boss. I mean, you could, but I don't think that'll be the right way to do it.
Right, exactly. So you have to look deeper. This is just a alphabet communicating very basics, a small amount of information, no tone, no real emotion. And usually in the North American environment, you're not supposed to have personal, emotional life mixed with your professional work business life. There is an unwritten rule that personal or emotional and professional work is supposed to be separate. And so this is emotional. So somebody made the rule that you're not supposed to use this. But even better, we said this generally means flirting. And flirting with your teacher, definitely no. Flirting with your job applicant, your job executive, that's generally, in most environments I know of, it's considered bad. Right, so be aware of those. Is there any time that it could be okay? When can you use any of these? Are any of these okay, or are they bad? For every time you're applying for a job, or every time you're talking to a professor, can you use these?
Can I give comments, sir?
Yes, please.
I don't think it's about good or bad, but it's proper or not proper. It's in that sense it should go.
And who? You must understand, it's not you that decides. You must understand whoever is the target person you're communicating with, how do they decide? What could they interpret? The message is less important than the intention. If they think you're trying to have an affair with them or sex with them, obviously that has a completely different meaning than please, thank you, I love this class. Or please, thank you, I love this company, I love this job, I love the quote that or the speech you just gave. Very, very different intentions. Right. So what you think is very much less important than what the other person understands, the intention. So can you use these? What about this one? What is this pie in the face idea? What does that mean? Anybody? Yes, sir. What does this mean to you?
I think it means that you are disappointed or sad.
Good, disappointed, sad, sick, etc. So I want to just use any questions about this? Otherwise, I'd like to just put you into maybe groups for 5 minutes to talk about what could you or what should you have in your CV and maybe in a cover letter. It's just a short exercise. We don't need to get serious. Just start talking about whatever is in your mind is not that important. whatever is your intention is not that important. What is more important is the intention or what's in the mind of the person you're trying to communicate with, especially if they're at a different culture, if they're at a different age culture, if they're at a different executive work culture, or if they're at a different national culture. You must try to understand what is their value and intention and match communication with them. How can you do it? Try to research and use their words. So if you don't have too many more questions about this or about how you present your final projects, which is important, I want you to talk about that. If you ask questions about that, you will do better. Everyone will do better. It's better intentions, they're understood. If you don't have questions about how to present perfectly next week, let's start talking about how to make a resume or a cover letter to an executive in some company in a different cultural environment. Any questions or comments before we start this? Going once? Twice? Okay. Hopefully, Tom, can you put everybody into the groups?
Yes. So how many people are there in the group, Professor?
We've got 6. I'm going to go ahead. I'm starting right now. First of all, before we start, Samaj, you understand what you're supposed to be doing?
Yes.
Okay. Ideally, it's best for you to talk about what is the best way to present your project. You can talk about that in class. Otherwise, what is the best way to present a resume and a cover letter to a company in a different culture? Okay. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about the answers. Hopefully you can post your group idea in Facebook. Any questions before we start? No? Okay. Ali Akbar and Tobias, are you guys still here? Have you guys left the room? I guess Ali Akbar and Tobias left the room.
Professor, your mic is off.
Thanks, great. I think I saw that Ali Akbar and Tobias, they might have already left the group, but the rest of you, is there anything special that you guys would like to share? What have you learned? What have you decided with your group? Ulukbek, would you like to start? What did your group talk about?
Yes, we have talked about CV and the difference between CV and resume. And we noticed that CV is quite bigger than, usually it depends on experience, working experience, bigger than resume.
Okay. Okay, good enough. Next group, what was, Yasser, what did you guys decide? What's your lesson that you've learned?
Well, first we talked about resume, but then we decided to move on to the next topic, which is how to submit the final project. And we basically talked about what you will expect from us and what we can do to show that we've done something. And we also talked about the equality in the group. So for example, if we have 2 or 3 people in the group and just one person does the whole presentation or explains what they've done, we kind of assume that you don't like it because you want other students to participate and to show that they've done something. So we just assume that you expect us to be equal and show you that we've done something even a little bit.
So how can you do that? Can you explain why? You said you're thinking, but I don't get the intention, what you've learned. What are you teaching?
Well, I'm not trying to teach anything. I'm just like assuming that depending on like your personality, I think you want students to talk. You don't want silence because you're not silent. You don't shut up. So you expect students to talk more, even though you just want students to be active. So that's why I'm asking. I'm saying you want everyone to be equal in the group project.
Okay, so how can you do that if one person actually was sick and the other people had to do more?
Well, I guess we can explain the situation to you so you might understand. Well, we're still working on that, Professor. I don't know the exact solution or answer for this one. So.
Okay, so our time is almost up. I just wanted to answer that question. What I'm showing on the board now is the example of great project beginning. They have found a reliable, respectable article Scopus article. World doesn't know what Scopus is, so you need to introduce. This is one of the world's best articles about a topic. We have continued a similar idea, and we found this. But when you're talking about it, the first student is presenting, and everything they say is in green highlighting. The second student may be presenting in just the regular black and white. Another student might be doing something else in yellow. So you can highlight what you have created or contributed to the group. That could be an answer if there's different levels of contributions. Does that answer your question? Yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Great. So we are finished the class for today. Next class is basically just your presentations. You need to remember a few core details. You have to post your information in the Facebook group. You should try to get other people to evaluate it and give you comments. If you do that, maybe you don't need to present in class. Just show those details. Next, when you are posting details, you have to also go through, download these files and evaluate other presenters. If you have any questions about this, please talk to me early and be specific. Say what day you're going to present, what time you're going to present, etc. If you also don't like talking in front of many people, an alternative is you can make a video of the project and share part of that video. Thank you, guys. Any other questions? Otherwise, classes are finished for today.
Yes, Professor. So